All right, when you're editing this, this is 3.
Get out of here. You auditioned for this spot and you didn't get it.
So I recently watched The Idol, HBO's 6-part miniseries directed by Amy Simons. Oh, sorry, my software just updated. I recently watched The Idol, a limited (?) 5-part series directed by Sam Levinson on HBO Max. I think I got all the updates right that time. Now, if The Idol sounds familiar to you, it's probably because HBO promoted it pretty heavily on the homepage for a few weeks and then sort of squidded it out of the way while they tried to calculate their next move. If you're not familiar with it from that, maybe you heard about its extremely troubled pre-production. I had heard a little bit about it. I knew that it had changed hands. Maybe there were some creative differences. I knew that it got hit with some bad early can reviews and a damning article in Rolling Stone. But I honestly didn't engage with any of that because I was very excited about the cast and the premise seemed too good to mess up. Like, how can you go wrong with a story about a pop star getting involved in a cult? Maybe if I had engaged with any of that stuff, I would have not been so surprised when I got to the end of the pilot and I had not seen Elizabeth Berkley or Anne Heche anywhere. Maybe I would have had more of a heads up of the fact that anytime a lead is going to be wearing short shorts or a short skirt, the camera is going to be literally put on the ground. I still watched. And in the end, what is it? Gritty LA fairy tale with implications too dark for the average rube to actually understand? Or a mindless softcore that meanders to a questionable conclusion? Yes. But because I neither want nor expect people to watch this series in order to engage with this video, I'm going to turn things over to the Dirtbag Drive players who will give you a brief synopsis episode by episode. Now, I should say going in that this is a Sam Levinson joint, so we're going to be discussing topics like abuse, substance use, sexual assault. Around here, we call that a Levinson Deluxe. I can't say that it's handled particularly gracefully, so I don't know how triggering it would actually be, but you know how to take care of yourself better than I do. So let's get into it.
In episode 1, we meet a glamorous child star turned pop star named Jocelyn, who is planning a career comeback after the grief of her mother's death pushed her to a very public meltdown. After a stressful day of weird photo shoots, an inconsistent dance practice, and her team trying to get ahead of a PR nightmare, Jocelyn's talented dancer friend Diane invites her to blow off some steam at a club. While dancing, they catch the eye of the mysterious Tedros, a handsome man with a low braided ponytail that they're going to call a rat tail for the whole series, so get ready. They discuss pop music, philosophy, sex, and how they all somehow relate. They end up tying some light bondage into a recording session when he ties her silk robe over her head and tells her that now she can sing. I don't get it. In episode 2, Jocelyn runs a new sound by a team who point out that they aren't willing to recut the album with her moans and groans, especially after her disastrous canceled tour. Jocelyn bombs and bombs hard on the set of a new music video, but Diane shines. Tedros claims to be working at the club alone, but seems to be either making people sing, shocking them with collars, or some combination thereof. When he finally comes to the party, he brings his friends and followers with him. Jocelyn and Tedros bone for an excruciating amount of runtime, and he suggests that he move in, while his crew sings a song about becoming a family. Ooh. In episode 3, Tedros and Jocelyn have a painfully unsexy shopping trip while Joss's team conspires to find out what Tedros' deal is. His team sheds a little light on his training process, which is like improv rules taken to an unhealthy, toxic extreme. You can't say no to anything because missing an experience might cost you inspiration. We see it in action over dinner when Tedros pushes Jocelyn into admitting that her mother used to abuse and motivate her over the course of her lifelong career. Tedros has her bring him her mother's favorite weapon, a hairbrush, and beats her repeatedly, then tends to her afterwards, effectively sliding into the role of abuser and caretaker recently vacated by her mother. Or did he? In episode 4, Jocelyn's managers, Chaim and Destiny, infiltrate the house to gather information that they do nothing with. Jocelyn and Tedros perform sex in front of an unwilling audience, and I don't just mean me. Her whole team watches while he gropes her, and she records, and while nobody asks how she's going to perform this song on stage, nobody sprays him with a hose either, so fair enough. Tedros gets a hint that Jocelyn might not have been her mother's only victim. We also see that she still has agency of her own when she finds out that Diane brought her to Tedros' club at his request. She invites a hunky ex over to throw into the meat grinder that their relationship is becoming and bones him while Tedros cries, wearing a stupid headband, his ponytail looking ragged, but still not a rat tail. Oh, and Mike Dean is around. Neat. In episode 5, Jocelyn and Tedros' machinations come to a head when the record label demands a demo of what they've been working on. Her team comes over and watches a hilariously long living room talent show that makes them absolutely foam at the mouth. They immediately sign on a handful of unknown randos dressed as low-budget porn actors to open the tour. Jocelyn demands that her manager Chaim get rid of Tedros, and he just does. Pretty easily. A time skip later, her management dumps a ton of exposition on us, only to have the rug pulled out from under them when Jocelyn invites Tedros on stage in front of a stadium full of people and introduces him as the love of her life. Tedros examines her mother's infamous hairbrush and notices it looks brand new, casting a shadow of doubt on everything Jocelyn has said. Is your mind blown? Oh, for the sake of aesthetic, pretend that I'm wearing very 90s makeup and smoking a long, thin cigarette. Oh, that's a good idea. Try to imagine what my nipples would look like and picture them in every plot synopsis. Bam.
So, if you find yourself a little confused or thinking, wait, did I miss something? Yes, I did have to cut quite a bit of stuff out because cats kept lying across one of the cast members' necks. It doesn't matter who. And so we ended up having to edit down some of our summaries. That being said, you would be probably equally as confused watching it in real time. It's just a very tangled web, and when you start pulling too much, the whole thing falls apart. I kind of don't know how to discuss it outside of like a group conversation. So that's how I'm going to do it, with the two people I convinced to watch the show with me, Roderick Red and C.T. Jenkins. We're going to break it down into what we liked, what we didn't like, what confused us, and then conclude with what did we just watch and how could we fix it, if we could fix it. Gentle folks, thank you for joining me for this discussion today. Now, let's talk about the positives. What did we like? I really like Jocelyn. I think there's a lot of people that can relate to being creatively adrift, and a lot of people, unfortunately, that can relate to losing an abusive relative. But they offered a unique perspective by having it from the point of view of someone who grew up under public scrutiny. Yeah, they didn't make her too direct a parallel to Britney Spears. True, and I would have been distracted because I would have been looking for juicy inside information. But they mixed and matched a little. There was some Britney Spears with the public breakdown and public perception, but some Jeanette McCurdy with the troubled mom stuff. Yeah, and a little Selena Gomez with the hospital bracelet. Kind of a Mambo number 5 of a performer. I really liked Leia. You know, Jocelyn's assistant and best friend. Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about, but do you mind if we circle back to that? Because she's actually in things that confuse me. Mm-hmm. Great. What else? I personally really liked a lot of the cast. I thought Jocelyn more than rose to the occasion for some emotional scenes. I didn't care for the character of Leah, but I thought the actress was good. And Hank Azaria is always fantastic, and I'm hoping his presence on this show means that he's going to be like in the next season of The Righteous Gemstones, since HBO likes to keep people around.
It looked beautiful.
Yeah, unfortunately, when we say a Sam Levinson deluxe, that does usually include things looking really gorgeous. He makes good use of light and framing.
I also thought it sounded good.
Like from a score perspective. Oh, okay, all right. You know, there was this big swooning old Hollywood style.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand what you guys are talking about. The very swooning romantic string music that was interrupted by the discordant squawk, so that you would be like, "Oh, stuff's about to get real." It didn't, but you would think that. I would like to go on record as saying that I loved the first club scene where Jocelyn and Tedros meet. The energy is good, it looks great. Jocelyn and Tedros have great chemistry. I'm not talking about in the whole show, I'm talking about in this one scene. It's an oddly joyful moment in this otherwise slog of an episode. And then all of a sudden, the music slows down, and you see that members of Tedros' cult are eyeballing and singling out members of Jocelyn's entourage, and you think, holy shit, things are about to get crazy. They don't, but you can be forgiven for thinking that. So I'd like to actually pause this whole scathing critique of The Idol to give a dozen roses to the club scene.
Is it possible that you just really like a Prayer? Well, you said that the song slowed down, but you didn't say that the song was like a prayer, which whips ass pretty hard. Maybe the song carried the scene a lot.
I would like to go on record as saying I quite enjoyed the club scene where Jocelyn and Tedros first met. In fact, I'd like to pause this scathing critique of The Idol to give 6 carnations to the club scene.
That's a short list.
It is what it is, bud. There's a zap in my lap. And now for a more robust section. What didn't we like? Somebody's got to be the first one to say it. I didn't care for all the sex stuff. Just from a viewer standpoint, Sam Levinson's sex scenes tend to be very uncomfortable. Nobody's ever just enjoying themselves. Someone's being coerced or manipulated, or sometimes outright assaulted, or falsely accused of such as the case may be. Yeah, agreedo.
I also didn't like the sex stuff. A lot of it went on way too long, and the dialogue was just terrible. Don't get me wrong, if someone recorded my dirty talk and played it, I would set them on fire, and then myself. But I would hire writers if I were gonna record it, is the point.
I also didn't like the sex stuff, because I'm not sure why this particular show team thought that they had so much to say about female sexuality, and why it was such a narrow view. That the only facet of female sexuality that they wanted to explore was, like, some women like rough sex and exploitative images and having nudes taken and things like that. And that's true, but to just throw it into a showbiz setting, I feel like ignores a lot of the context. Either of you want to step in?
Nope. Firmly no.
I feel like a lot of my issues with the way sex and nudity is portrayed on this show can be summed up in the scene with the intimacy coordinator. If you didn't watch the show, there's a scene where Jocelyn is doing a photo shoot, and an intimacy coordinator who is dressed like, I don't know, some nebbish grandmother pops in to be, and in just the most dorky way possible. Like, they are not trying to portray him in a flattering light. Rod, do you want to play the intimacy coordinator for a minute?
Oh, yeah. Excuse me. According to the contract, she can only show the sides of the bosom and the flank.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. And I mean, I'm not a pop star, I'm a billionaire aviatrix. But I do feel like those contracts exist for a reason, and there's a reason to have someone on set to enforce them. And if I were Sam Levinson, a guy who is constantly under scrutiny for possibly exploiting his female stars, I simply wouldn't include a scene where an intimacy coordinator is stopping people from achieving their brilliance and then excusing it under the umbrella of, but she wants to show her boobs. Actually, I feel like I could do a whole section of things that I wouldn't do if I were Sam Levinson, guy who is constantly under scrutiny for his weird portrayal of sex. I wouldn't include two separate storylines about two separate women lying about abuse, parental and sexual later.
Oh, yeah. There was a whole thing where Jocelyn's hunky ex was set up and kicked out of a movie because one of Tedros's lackeys took a sexy picture with him and then accused him of assault. And it's just there. It's never resolved. It comes up and it goes away. Ooh. If I would direct a Sam Levinson, I wouldn't put a camera on the floor every time a woman is wearing a short skirt and a thong. If I were Sam Levinson, I wouldn't have an entire show about a drug dealer and sex trafficker and then conclude with maybe the woman is the evil one.
Choices. I think what it comes down to is that none of us are uncomfortable with sex scenes, and honestly, not even scenes of sexual assault, but it needs to be in service of something good, a good story or a good message, and it needs to be in service of something less shallow than some women like to be naked, and actually sometimes women can be exploiters and abusers. Like, yeah, we know. Now what? Another thing I unfortunately didn't like was the clothes and makeup. You wouldn't know it to look at me because I usually look like I'm on my way to a Columbo party, but I actually really love clothes. I like shows where the clothes tell us a story, tell us about the character, and make me want to buy them. And Euphoria kind of does that, especially with the makeup. It's so creative. But this one,
not so much.
Not so much. Jocelyn's told a story. I liked that whenever she was trying to lure someone in, she wore red.
It is a sexy color.
When she was most herself, she was usually wearing stark white so that she could, be whatever people wanted her to be and project that star, burned away to nothingness, sort of. But for the most part, her wardrobe was just sort of straps artfully draped across her perfect body, and it looked good. She looks gorgeous, but it's not something that I look at and think, I wonder if I could do that.
You're wearing your Tedros-inspired outfit.
Yeah, I did like Tedros's dressy pajamas, and he did like animal prints to show he was a predator. I'm doing a butterfly print to show that sometimes I look good, but never forget that I just came from confused goo, and to confused goo I will return. Now, this is an odd one because it's technically not a criticism of the show, but I had a problem with a lot of the critique of the show in the general public. I would see a lot of people like posting a gif of Nikki saying mental illness is sexy, and they'd be like, seriously, HBO? Or like a clip of Tedros using slurs. And it'd be like, wow, The Weekend. Or Jocelyn saying that like she liked that Tedros looked rapey, and people are like, you got to be kidding me, Sam Levinson. But it's like,
no, they don't want you to take that seriously.
Tedros and Nikki are easily the least sympathetic and least moral characters in the entire thing. That's like saying we were supposed to take Ursula seriously when she said that men didn't want women who talked. No, we're not supposed to listen to them. They're terrible. I never want to defend a character using slurs, but guys like Tedros would use slurs in the real world.
Yeah, and I don't think that we are meant to watch the scene where he's acting like a coked up Yosemite Sam at that shop assistant and be intimidated by him. I think we're supposed to see him like most people see cult leaders outside of a cult, as insecure, petty, and ridiculous. Yeah, you thought we were supposed to think it was cool when he was wearing a headband and doing American Kung Fu movie noises at Jocelyn's ex? No.
Like, there's so much to criticize about the show. That just seems like a disingenuous way not to engage with it, and it's very annoying. Another thing that we didn't like were the stakes. Things that we had in play in this series.
A cult, shot collars, guns, restraints, choking.
And yet, no body count. Nobody ended up dead at all.
Sam Levinson, meet Chekhov. He'd like to tell you about guns and shot collars.
Okay, gang, let's get into things that confused us. And here is where I would love to talk more about Leah, because have we been saying Leah the whole time?
I don't know. Is it too late to reshoot?
Yeah, dude, this is like our third time.
Push ahead.
So to me, Leia served very little purpose other than to be like the Toby Flenderson or the Jerry on this show. Everybody just kind of craps on her and then she leaves in the end. So I'm very curious as to why you like her, other than that, Rachel Sennett is very pretty and talented.
Oh, well, Leah was the abused woman.
Say more.
Well, I'm just saying, Leah is annoying. Leah is financially motivated to keep Jocelyn's life a certain way, and yet Leah is being treated badly and not being helped and deserves to be protected. She's easily overlooked because she's not a famous pop star, but she is nevertheless in danger, and she got out of it. And unfortunately, usually that's what escaping abuse looks like. It's just sort of anticlimactic and you leave.
That is a very generous read of it, and I'm not sure what it indicates about me that I didn't think of it at first. But I'm willing to move Leah into the things I liked category.
Ha! I win.
So there's one really intense scene that I initially had in my things I liked, but I had to move it into this category.
The music video?
Yeah. You guys want to fill them in?
Sure. So, Jocelyn is filming her new music video and is hyper fixated on everything being perfect. She ends up wasting a ton of time and shots, the crew and cast getting exhausted. Suddenly, they manage to nail it in one perfect take. You can tell she's getting it right because they do it in slow motion and don't show her next to the other dancers, so you can't compare them. Unfortunately, for this one perfect magical take, the camera glitches out. Realizing that all of this effort has been lost, Jocelyn realizes that she has nothing left to give unless she is willing to hurt herself or have someone else willing to push her into hurting herself. And so, in a moment that is honestly ugly and brutal to watch, she calls out for her dead mom. The shoot comes to a halt and everyone sends her home.
And I have to wonder, why did she have that reaction? Because she didn't like the song and she wanted to take the album in a new direction. She also didn't have any control over the camera, so it just seems kind of like an awful coincidence, and it ends up feeling a little out of place in the rest of the show. Something that confused me was the ending.
And not what happened.
No, I get it, but I don't know why they played it out like it was a twist when I think they actually kind of did a decent setup for some of it. Yeah, we establish early on that Jocelyn is adrift and has a hard time motivating herself outside of the context of extreme pressure. We see it at dance practice and at the music video rehearsal. Then later in the series, we establish that Jocelyn is more opportunistic and perhaps more of an unreliable narrator than we previously thought. Yeah, but then at the end, it's played out like You thought she was the victim, but it turns out he was the victim all along. But no, he wasn't. He was a terrible man. He found drug addicts and homeless people and impoverished people, took them in and shocked them till they made good music. Yeah, the only thing that really happened was that he didn't get to victimize this one person. It doesn't mean he was a victim. I don't know why they don't want credit for it. Because the story of a girl who is having trouble producing art without abuse, who finds an abuser who targets artists and then manipulates him into being her pet, is a kind of interesting story. But they didn't do that in favor of a big fat gotcha. A gotcha that just didn't get. So here's a peek behind the curtain. Originally, we were going to talk as if we had seen the Amy Seimetz version, and we're going to break down what we thought The Idol was going to be about and could be like. But that's kind of unfair because we don't know if it would have been good or not. That being said, I'm a little confused at how The Weeknd looked at whatever they had before and then looked at the final product and was like, yeah, this is closer to what I want. Maybe it just felt more like a music video. He is a music producer. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of dreamlike, and it plays fast and loose with the timeline. You don't always know what order things are happening in, but that might have been to just sort of cover up when people asked, hey, why didn't they call the police? You could be like, well, it's only been a little while. And I guess maybe I'm confused. If someone is such a good music producer, why did they think, yeah, this will translate over into show running? Same reason a good improviser might decide to do a puppet video without any ventriloquism skill. Okay. All right, boys, what did we watch? What do you think it was about and the themes and what they were trying to tell us?
In the pilot, when he's getting ready for a date with Jocelyn, Tedros says, "Hello, Angel," or practices. In the end, Jocelyn addresses the audience as angels. Maybe the point that they're making is that the only way to be an angel, i.e., remain pure in the music industry, is to only participate as an observer.
Okay, showbiz corrupts. I guess I saw something about a young woman who didn't know how to motivate herself anymore, and so she created a new abuser to help her get what she wanted with like some degree of impunity. And so I guess maybe we're exploring the idea that control is subjective.
I saw a man promising to make people stars and not delivering, and then they all turned on him. So I think we watched something about how if you're going to start a cult, you either need very loyal members or you got to deliver on some of your promises.
I'm fascinated by projects that have an inverse relationship between like the talent and potential involved and the final product. Showgirls is another one that comes to mind, but Showgirls did it a lot better because it stuck to its themes. This business corrupts everyone absolutely. The only way to survive it is to come in a little bit broken already. And maybe you will only come in with yourself, but as long as you keep that sense of self, you can leave with it. Great. I can't say that everything along the way was done well, but they stuck to it. This one, not so much. So, how would we have fixed it?
Well, what all are we allowed to change?
Yeah, is it a complete teardown? No, let's do some parameters. Okay, you can change some outcomes, but our load-bearing walls are going to be the cult, the pop star, and the fact that she's pulling the strings in the end. So, what would you guys like to see happen? Go.
I think it would have been interesting if the floor show had culminated in killing Jocelyn's management, and then she had convinced the cult that they were going to become part of something bigger than they are and convinces them to drink poison. But then she doesn't, and then she rebrands herself as a big survivor. Okay. I thought the Tedros was going to die. You know, she gave them the whole him or me speech to the cult, and I thought that it might culminate in her demanding that they make a choice. And no offense to Tedros, but they're obviously going to choose her. Like she said, she can make him a star. He can't. I just would have liked to have seen more of the power struggle. I think it would have been really, really interesting to see these two narcissists freaking battle it out using actual human beings and brainwashed cult members as pawns. I want to see the political intrigue on this super personal level. But unfortunately, 5 episodes and probably even 6 wouldn't accomplish that. I'd probably need more like 10 or 12. So, the only way that you could fix this series that you did not like is to make more of it? Yeah, what can I say? I'm just a freak. Thanks to everyone who made it to the end of this messiness. I appreciate it. If you are wondering, are they aware that their lighting changes dramatically between shots? Yes, we are. Do we know how to fix it? No, we don't. Is that gonna stop us? We'll see. We're learning as we go. But be kind, drink some water, and please, if you're gonna like dunk on a show, do it for legitimate reasons, because I never want to be in the unfortunate position of defending the idol again. We'll see you later on Dirtbag Drive.
Maybe ain't nothing free, especially not with me. You better have a bank account if you want to see what I'm about. I'm a good girl gone bad. Get in that car, drive fast. Get on the road. Take off my clothes, 'cause you're dumb, but you're cute. That's a good enough ratio. And I'm wild as a stallion, so come enjoy the rodeo.
An episode. No, Cricket, the script. Hang on.
Armor. And I agree, that was a strong starting. Cricket. Come here. Why don't you hop behind us right quick? Cricket. Go, scoot, scoot, away. Thank you. Cricket. I switched you guys up a little bit, and I hope that's fine.
I'm good with it. I ain't saying nothing.
Well, don't. All right. Fluffed. Fluffed. All right. Puppet fluffer sounds ugly, otherwise I'd put it on my resume. All right. Let's do this. All right. We got this, dude. High five.
Check. This is Roderick Red, checking audio for idle commentary. Check, check. Roderick Red, checking commentary for idle commentary. Sorry, checking audio for idle commentary. If you hear the neighbor's shitty music, nobody's sorrier than me. Except maybe her. Casey. Hey, get down from there, cat.
Find the pad, find the register. Stay in the top of the throat and up in the sinuses. That's the way to be C.T. Jenkins. Where are we? Is Rod going to be completely blocked by this plant, etc.?
It better not be. It's me or you.
That was just practice. It was a great rehearsal. We didn't even reset your set, bro. Okay. Jesus, shut up. Rod, your arm. Ah, beautiful. Planes roaring, neighbors blasting music. Let's do it.